Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinars, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key of enhancing our performances and for our growth as professionals. With this principle in mind, TechGig has initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give a crisp insight of various domains. Topic for today's webinar session is Enterprise Business Transformation by BPM Technologies. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Sajeev Nair, General Manager and Practice Head, EAI and BPM at Mindtree Limited. Sajeev is the Practice Head for EAI BPM with exclusive product focus on IBM, Oracle, TIBCO, and Microsoft Desktop SOA product suites. Gentlemen, this presentation will continue for next 45 minutes and we will take your questions after the presentation. In the meanwhile, you can post your queries through the chat pane available in the webinar software. Without further ado, I introduce you to our guest speaker, Mr. Sajeev.
Hello.
Mr. Sajeev.
My query to moderator. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible and we can see your picture.
Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Am I audible? We can start, isn't it?
Yeah, we can start now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So shall we start?
Yes, we can start.
Welcome all of welcome all of you. Okay, those who have logged in from various parts of the globe in order to get into an exciting 1 hour journey in terms of what transformational technologies like BPM can offer for enterprise data integration and BPM practice in Mindtree Limited, one of the most admired IT services as well as product engineering solution company based out of India as well as in Warren, New Jersey, USA. In the course of the next 50 odd minutes, what we will try to do is I will take you people through what BPM Technologies can offer for enterprise business transformation kind of engagements. Then subsequently, we can try to answer a set of queries from your side based on the time as well as other constraints. So I am moving into slide number 2. Here we cover the broad objectives which we are trying to achieve during the course of this particular session. We will cover here how BPM Technologies will help to execute business transformation initiative, during the course of which I will define what actually a business transformation initiative is all about. For BPM projects, what are the BPM technology options available to customers, and how to decide on choosing a BPM technology over a set of available options. Then the current BPM tool landscape, as such, what are the options available to enterprise customers, and a very high level comparison of one over another. Subsequent to this, we can have a set of queries and answer sessions. Moving on to slide number 3. During the course of this discussion, I would encourage you people to type your queries and it can go ahead. See, those who are keenly following the BPM and integration technology landscape, you read any kind of literature, you interact with any BPM practitioner. So the kind of definitions you get for business process management, it's varied, as well as it will be many times looking upon some aspect or another aspect of a BPM scenario than an all encompassing kind of a definition. So I try to define BPM, okay, taking into consideration the most valid business as well as technological aspects which one BPM practitioner should know. So a few of those definitions goes like this. BPM is a core competency within the enterprise defining, analyzing, improving, executing and auditing business processes. It's by far a simple definition. From this we will get the key aspect of a business process management engagement. It's nothing but some sort of a watchdog who will be defining, analyzing, okay, keep on trying to monitor and improve upon the processes, executing means implementing those processes as well as okay, auditing for future operational benefits. Another definition goes like, it's an enabler for businesses in defining strategic goals, organization strategic goal based on the strategy, okay, it can be based upon a long-term vision, mission or for a particular period. So based on those strategic goals, measuring and managing performances against okay, these well laid down goals aided by technology, that is the key. So business processes and its own key performance indicators being measured with the aid of technology, that comprises of BPM technology area. Another definition goes by planning, consultation, reporting, modeling, analysis and monitoring of key performance indicators, KPIs, I briefly touched upon, linked to an organizational strategy. This definition also, of course, links with organizational strategy to achieve that what are the key performance indicators are required and using a technology enablers trying to track them, monitor them, continuously auditing them for perfection. Okay. To top it all this, a simple definition for a technology practitioner, okay, we will say BPM is all about enterprise business process integration with focus on process optimization. As we all aware, why we integrate organizations applications, it's for across umpteen number of siloed applications within the organization landscape. So try to integrate all these business processes with a peculiar view, peculiar focus on okay, whether the resulting process integrated scenario is optimized or not, or is this the best way of integrating these processes? Is this the optimum number of steps which will constitute a process or not? So that comprises a set of definitions on what actually a business process management initiative is all about. Any queries at this point of time? Okay, you will be able to type, else I will be moving to the next slide. See, here I receive BPM watts. I mean to say, in technology prospects where it exactly suits. Okay. So I just briefly touched upon in the initial slide itself. It's all about business process integration. And an organization's business processes are scattered across umpteen number of applications within the organization landscape. So we need to integrate all these applications together so that those processes are well orchestrated. So a brief answer to your query is it's for business process integration, but the focus will be on process optimization. That is whether the resultant processes landscape is optimized or not in terms of number of steps, in terms of sophisticated view for monitoring key performance indicators, so on and so forth. During the course of this particular discussion, it will be a bit more clearer to you and we can discuss subsequently. Moving on to slide number 4, here we are trying to touch upon what context, in fact, BPM kind of technologies are applicable in an organization landscape. Okay. 3 mainstream pillars, I should say, of any organization's IT landscape, plus the operational landscape. We can classify, of course, all of us are aware, people, processes, as well as systems. So, trying to define or set context for all these 3 pillars roles in an enterprise business context. People for creating, nurturing, growing business relationships internally. Okay. In the previous slide, we talked about the organizational strategy. Of course, people create the strategy, goals, and then the mode for measuring the key performance indicators by which we will be able to achieve our organizational goal. So people play a vital part over there. They execute the core tasks to run a business, to be precise. Then, for people to run a set of business goals or achieve a set of business goals, the tool set for them is a set of well laid down processes in the organization. So processes are nothing but forms which will aid you towards your organization's goal. Okay. Then processes will help us to de-risk from over-dependence on technology as well as people. As we all are aware of, a well laid down set of processes will make us independent from a set of people who will be executing as well as IT systems as such. Okay. Now, people are there, they have a set of processes. Then, why we need systems? Of course, we need systems because many times these processes are complicated in itself because maybe the numerous number of steps it has, numerous number of sub-processes it has, so on and so forth. So it's beyond human comprehension many times to achieve the processes in be precise. Okay. So there comes the relevance of IT systems. Okay. So people, processes, systems, these three pillars, their effective interactions together towards organizations' goal achievement, objective achievement. This can be a context for the proper business process management engagement as such. I'm moving on to slide number 5. So here we are trying to discuss on the theme of this presentation itself. So we have already seen the organizational context in which a BPM kind of engagement is applicable. A set of very experienced people are there. Organization have a set of processes. As at this point of time, we are not sure whether the processes are optimized or matured over a period of time, or they are self-organization towards its goal. We are not. Okay. To help the people to execute processes, organization have set up systems also. Now, in this particular context, organization desires to do something called an enterprise business transformation. Okay. So many times we talk about this word, enterprise business transformation. Even learned people, learned IT evangelists, learned business heads talk about some sort of a buzzword it is. Okay. More than that, what is there inside? Such kind of queries used to come. Enterprise business transformation, if we try to define in simplistic terms, okay, it's going away from the beaten tracks as far as the process implementation, as far as people and systems interaction in an organization is concerned. That means, in order to achieve the organization's goals, a set of processes with the aid of IT systems, if at all we have to execute, the mode in which the interaction between all these three entities, people, processes, as well as IT systems, okay, the mode in which they have to collaborate together, if at all it can result in a way by which the organization currently runs the business, a totally different way for the positive upliftment of the organization as such, we can call that we were able to successfully do an enterprise business transformation. Again, being simplistic, the three-way kind of interaction between people, processes, and IT systems together, if we can do it in a synchronized way, efficient way, by which the organization's goals are met, KPIs are being monitored perfectly, resulting in an enterprise transformation. Okay, these kinds of engagements, in fact, BPM technologies are being looked upon with a lot of hope. And 99 out of 100 times it succeeds as well. Okay, so that's the theme of this particular discussion today. I'm going to discuss in this particular slide how enterprise journey normally happens in terms of integration of the processes, integration of the applications in the organization landscape, plus how by a step-by-step approach it will lead towards an enterprise business transformation. As evident in this particular slide, many organizations, we are focusing from the bottom end of the arrow, which is being showcased at the top left corner. So you're seeing a bullet point: software asset consolidation through EAI, enterprise application integration. Service provider, as an integration service provider, BPM service provider today, what we are finding is the organizations will be having many applications in their landscape which would have been built over a period of time, based on maybe the availability of IT budget for the organization to automate their business processes, or the availability of skilled manpower to maintain those applications together, or the process maturity of that organization which demanded multiple systems together, or the business constraints within the organization which demanded multiple applications across various lines of business, LOBs within the organization. So many times, our customers, enterprise customers, reach out to us asking for, see, we have n number of applications within my organization landscape. I want to consolidate all these applications. I want to have a real-time integration of, or rather real-time or batch mode of integration of all these applications together, so that some sort of business process connectivity I can maintain. A set of technologies which will help organization to connect all these heterogeneous applications together is called enterprise application integration. So in many organizations, that is a starting point. They are not bothered about the process integration part, but they are not bothered about the resultant scenario where all these applications you are connecting together, where their core business processes are getting executed in an optimized way with minimum number of steps. They are not bothered. They want to somehow connect the applications together. So in that scenario, comes into picture a set of tools and technologies which is being classified as enterprise application integration. So once an organization achieves some sort of success, technological success, I will say, rather than giving some sort of a business direct benefit in terms of connecting all those applications together, then the query comes into picture. This organization over a period of time have been added with n number of such numerous applications together. Is there any way? We are talking about applications here, but invariably in applications what is there is a set of processes which are optimized. So invariably we can say a set of process silos are being integrated together. So organizations checks about whether any reusable way of integrating all of them together, so that year on year we don't have to incur the same amount of or more of IT budget spent over integrating applications together again and again and again. There comes a set of best practices, as you are all aware, service-oriented creating a reusable, as far as possible, reusable infrastructure services layer for enterprise application integration engagements, so as to create a much better return on investment in terms of future integrations. So SOA, for the purpose of this particular discussion, I am classifying or I am putting it as a best practice way of integrating applications together to enable future reuse. If at all an organization gets into this second step, which I have mentioned it as middleware modernized enterprise through SOA, then we can confidently tell that the organization started getting into some sort of mature way of integrating their processes. So enterprise application integration, SOA, to an extent, they are also doing nothing, but process integration. Now, think of an organization over a period of last n number of years, minimum of 5+ years. They have done middleware modernized enterprise kind of a scenario using service-oriented architecture. They have integrated their process landscape. Then comes into picture whether we have attained at a physical level interconnection of all the applications together through integration layer. We have optimized the technological performance of that particular integration through something called SOA. Then whether my processes, which is being resultant by the so-called integration and SOA initiatives, are really optimized or not. For example, an organization landscape, if at all 10 applications are there, and using the first two phases, we were able to successfully integrate them, then organization can start thinking about whether the resultant integrated application landscape is process modernized or not. Whether is that the best possible optimized scenario of executing a particular process. For example, to perform a claims process for a insurance firm, or to perform an underwriting process for an insurance firm, or credit checking for a banking scenario. Okay, so their processes are scattered across a number of applications. We have integrated them together using SOA. Now, the business SMEs of the organization has to think about the resultant scenario, whether we have achieved the same processes through minimum steps, optimum steps, or there is something called a set of key performance indicators, KPIs, always, okay, measuring which we will come to know the process health of the organization, whether those KPIs are being measured properly at any point of time. Okay, so these questions comes into picture. There comes this set of tools called BPM tools, okay, which of course have process integration capabilities, but their key focus is on the application silos, which processes are there. There comes the BPM Technologies. A set of organization in this particular phase, to be precise, phase 3, then we can say they have done the first step towards enterprise business transformation. Going on with this particular scenario, for the sake of completion, suppose an organization have embarked upon a BPM journey, and they found out during the course of this BPM implementation that more than 40% of their business processes are comprising of dynamically changing business rules always. That means, think about an insurance firm, think about a banking firm, think about a supply chain integration scenario for a CPG as well as retail together, organization together. If at all, their subject matter experts within the organization finds out that more than 40% of the business processes comprises of ever-changing, dynamically changing based on the business scenario, a set of business rules. In that case, there comes a scenario so it's practice to segregate these business rules from the core business processes and implement them in a separate business rule store, we will say, just like a data store. Okay. And connect those ever-changing dynamic rules with your business process management application together. So this third-party business rule store, we will call it as BRMS, Business Rule Management Systems. Okay, many of you are aware, it's a very significant player in a BPM market as of now. A set of business rules management tools like IBM iLog, Fair Isaac, Blaze, to name a few. So then, the organization BPM and BRMS together you are implementing, we can definitely say it's a flexible and agile enterprise. How? Why we are talking about flexibility and agility over here? Because, see, we don't have to change the business processes over and over again as the business rules changes, because we are storing that in a separate data store. Now, getting into the top part of this business transformation journey, we will call it as some sort of a dynamic and self-correcting enterprise. The concept is, see, using integration, we achieved all information connectivity within the organization. Through SOA, we achieved some sort of reuse in terms of integrating ever-growing applications in your landscape. Through BPM, we have achieved optimized set of processes in your organization. Using business rules engines, BRMS, we achieved the agility and flexibility in terms of ever-changing business processes. Now, all these things are achieved, but if at all, we will be able to deliver some sort of dynamic feedback as soon as any business process is getting executed within an organization, measuring the key performance indicator. If the KPIs are not within the expected limit by which it will achieve the organization's end business goal, then all the key stakeholders within the organization has to be informed as far as possible, real time, on, okay, these are the status of the key performance indicators. It's not up to the mark. It's up to you now for taking corrective action. Okay, so this kind of a scenario, if at all an organization achieve, we can call it as a dynamic or self-correcting organization, a self-correcting enterprise. Of course, dynamic event correlation techniques, real-time dynamic event correlation techniques, okay, by which we will be able to exactly do the same. So, in a CEP scenario, complex event processing scenario, real-time inputs from various process applications or process layers, okay, comparing that against an organizational benchmark in terms of the end goal a KPA should have, end value a KPA should have. Based on its value, give the feedback to the n number of stakeholders within the organization to correct it or do any corrective action. So these are called complex event processing kind of technologies. So subsequent slides we will discuss about the available product options available in market, okay, which have a thorough set of products by which all these area in enterprise business transformation is being dealt by the BPM service providers in the industry. Okay. So this is the ladder we are talking about option is concerned. At this point of time, I would like to interrupt and check for any queries. Yeah, there is one query over here. Okay, in slide number 3, you talked about key performance indicators. Okay, what actually it is? Okay, so here, see KPIs as the business subject matter experts all. You will be knowing, key performance indicator is nothing but any business process you take. Okay, so in any domain we talk about, okay, there are a set of indicators or parameters, okay, which need to be monitored in terms of how actually the process is happening, how well these set of business processes are getting coordinated or orchestrated, so that we will come to know whether the end goal will be achieved. For example, okay, think of an IT services organization's day-to-day running. A key performance indicator, okay, for them, okay, can be the top line growth, the bottom line margins, profit margins, or monthly targets. So, like this, any number of key performance indicators we will be able to talk about. Similarly, in an insurance industry, similarly in a banking industry. A set of key parameter indicators will be there, which will be monitored as well as measured against each and every process which is up and running. Okay. There is another query: in what level BPM works? Mean to say, in this technology prospects where it exactly suits. Okay. So, if I understood the query rightly, this is a third phase in any organization's integration journey. Okay, to be a prospective BPM kind of an engagement. Means, if at all an organization have their processes scattered across n number of siloed systems, they have already made some efforts in terms of trying to connect all these processes together, and it's working, but not in the best possible way, not in the optimized way. For example, a process which can be executed in 10 steps. By interconnecting two applications together, the first application have 5 steps, second application have 5 steps. So resultant application also have 10 steps to completely execute this particular initiative. Always there is a possibility after integration, we should start for executing the same can be 6 or 7 than this ultimate 5 plus 5, 10 kind of a scenario. So this is the scenario. I am simplifying the facts here, where the third step in this particular phase comes into picture. Process modernized enterprise. So I hope at a high level I answer this. The technology prospects where it exactly suits. Another query was that. The technology prospects, see, we are talking about the leading industry vendors. Okay, only 4 or 5 we are talking about. If you see the current scenario, around 70 products are available in market as on date, which have been registered and patented as enterprise business management applications. So I am talking only about few, the top 5 or 6. Okay, IBM, Oracle, TIBCO, Pega. Okay, Microsoft has its own SharePoint BPM. Okay, so these are some of the tried and tested available option in the BPM landscape. Okay, we will touch upon this more in later slides. Moving on with the discussion into slide 6. See here, it's an interesting discussion. The slide covers a lot of points which can be discussed even in 1 hour session. BPM engagement life cycle. So many of you who are going through this particular discussion, I'm sure will be curious, who are not already exposed to BPM or kind of engagements, projects, etc. How it is different from the basic application development kind of a scenario or a basic integration kind of a scenario. So the BPM engagement life cycle, we are talking about, it will of course start from the discovery and definition of activities in an organization. So here, activities, I would like to define for this particular context, a basic process step. Okay, we will classify here as an activity. So discovery and definition activity. So here we do the process identification within the organization. Okay, the automation requirements for those set of processes. Okay, this is similar to the requirement gathering phase of any BPM engagement. A client found the necessity of doing a process optimization or process integration. For all practical purposes, for subsequent discussion, we will use process integration, process optimization, synonymous to BPM. Okay, so one of our clients found the need for that. So as a service provider, they approached any one of your organization which have a BPM team as such. Initial step we will do will be discovery as well as the definition of the requirements activities as such. So we can sophisticatedly call it as process identification. Okay, need for automating of any of these processes, so on and so forth. The roles, okay, normally will be the process owners. It will be from the enterprises, the client side, as well as the business analysts, the business SMEs from the service providers like our side, who will go and gather the requirements, which is nothing but and the definition activity. Now comes the scenario, as many of you who are aware of the traditional software development life cycle will not be able to somewhat relate, modulate. Okay, so that I will say it's one of USPs, unique selling points or unique attracting points of any kind of a BPM engagement. Here, after gathering requirement in the previous phase, okay, any BPM engagement or any BPM tool set will provide, product platform will provide, okay, means and ways to document the process models. Process model, in simplistic term for the purview of this particular discussion, I will put it as a documented, process requirements, document the automation needs of a set of processes as identified by the organization with the help of the service provider in this particular case. Okay, this can be documented pure as Word documents, or it can be stored in some other formats, which is being offered by umpteen number of the BPM products as such. Okay, it's a documented, implementable business processes, I will call it as. Here, for modeling, set of a creed of technology professional people who have been evolved, we call this process modelers. They are business SMEs, plus they will have the know-how of how to do pictorially or using some standard formats. Okay, doing something called a process model. Many times it's a pictorial representation or some sort of an industry standard like BPM or BPL, business process execution language based representation of the business process to be implemented. So the next step, we have documented the requirements as an executable business process for future reference, not at implementabilities. It can be implemented by doing subsequent steps. the third step we will go, it is called simulation of activities. This is also something unique to only BPM kind of engagements. All the BPM tools available in market comes up with a facility called simulation of business process flows of this business process model. Here, as many of you are aware of, okay, your process is documented, your process model have been created. We can do some sort of what is manual way of performing the same business process. Okay, with lesser number of steps, whether we'll be able to do this or not. Okay, if by doing a set of process branching at particular step, whether the outcome will be an optimized scenario or not. All these kind of what if scenarios we will be able to execute. Any sort of process we will be able to remove, or we will be able to segregate, or we will be able to distribute. Okay, then comes cost benefit analysis. Really, organizations at this point of time can think about by investing on a BPM tool, in order to perform a set of business processes together, what will be the benefit we will be deriving against the kind of costs investment we are being envisaging. So this simulation step is being performed many times by the process analyst, or in many organizations which are executed the BPM projects already. Then they will have their own something called process excellence team. They will be able to do the simulation activity. After doing simulation, the end goal, the result will be optimized business processes, which all the key stakeholders, business stakeholders plus IT stakeholders of the organization, feel that if implemented can result into an optimum scenario. So their decision is being taken in terms of pushing that particular process steps into design and implementation. The subsequent steps follow actually the normal software development life cycle for integration, or even somewhat similar to the application development kind of a scenario. So design implementation activities being performed here, actual implementation of the business processes happens using a chosen BPM platform. How to choose a BPM platform, that particular discussion thread we will take up in subsequent slides. Then of course, after implementation, deploy it successfully in our client's premises. Then after deployment, see, a set of activities, I am classifying it as execute a set of activities like process rollout. See, by doing an integrated process implementation here, what we are trying to do is, it's not simply connecting few applications together, leaving it to clients' place for being utilized by a number of stakeholders. See, process integration requires a set of a few other activities together. See, a set of process SMEs plus an implementation service provider like any BPM service company. They together have decided all the previous steps, and they found out that the resultant processes are optimized. But the actual business, they also have to be convinced. They also have to be handholded throughout, at least in the initial few months of a new BPM project deployment, that we have to convince them that this is the optimum way of doing your business processes, and this is what the benefits it's being brought, than the kind of process steps which you were so much familiar with. So, and there can be a set of process SLAs also, service level agreement also. By virtue of executing the processes like this, it can derive these kind of benefits, so on and so forth. So, for these activities, there should be a handholding within BPM engagement for our customer, plus there should be a client sponsor, a team from the client side as such. Now, the final step over here is monitor and analyze activities. Of course, in BPM, continuous process improvement, CPI, continuous process improvement, is one of the keys. As you would have heard about total quality management and continuous process improvement kind of scenarios for re-engineering processes for organizations' benefit in a continuous manner. Here also in a BPM, all the BPM tools provide a set of facilities by which continuously monitoring and analyzing the implemented steps so as to provide some kind of a refinement or a continuous period of time. At this point of time, any queries? I am moving to slide number 7. Here, quickly bringing your attention to the kind of value add what a BPM engagement brings in than the traditional kind of application development or application integration. In this slide, if you could see this previous slide, I am representing it here, but you would have seen an inner circle, a red colored circle here, which comprises of 3 steps. Once we discover a set of processes, once the requirement gathering is happening, we will do subsequent 3 steps: modeling, simulating, this already have been discussed, as well as optimizing. So you, in every BPM tool every BPM project implementation, we have the modes and means to model the requirements, simulate and find out whether this is the optimum way of process execution. If not, optimize it again, means reduce the process steps or increase the process steps or do any steps change, so on and so forth. This can be executed in umpteen number of cycles as you want, as your business SMEs are satisfied. Okay, so that the resultant business process, which is going to be implemented only in the subsequent cycle, you please focus on the outside the circle. Okay, so the inner cycle, even though we have done 4 steps, discover mission mode, we are yet to do even 1 line of coding in a BPM tool. But the business stakeholders of an organization know that by virtue of this particular umpteen number of simulations, he will know that even before executing his BPM project, BPM implementation, that what he is going to get is the optimum way of business process. So in order to sell the concept of a BPM to any of our customer, this is the most important value add a BPM engagement can offer to the customer. Even before coding a single line, okay, so the customers stakeholders their process. So this is the takeaway. Okay, I want you also to carry even after this particular discussion. Moving on to slide number 8. Many a times, in fact, as a BPM solution provider, many of our clients, okay, at various point in time, they used to approach us and check with what is the normal or successful implementation approach for a BPM kind of an engagement. So here, please see the context. Organization know to achieve their strategy or business goal, what kind of business processes they have to do. Okay, these business processes are maybe documented, may not be documented, may be structured, may not be structured, may be optimized, may not be optimized. But if at all the organization, then as a service provider, we should be able to provide any number of implementation approaches to them based on their critical requirements, timelines, their budgets, so on and so forth. Here, we are trying to compare 2 models. One is traditional. Every one of us know what is waterfall model is all about. I have just depicted over here. See, 2 horizontal lines. One is fixed, one is estimated. So let us just focus on the left side of it. Waterfall model. Okay. What is fixed over here? Everyone knows that's requirements. Anybody who is pitching into an IT career, even in the first 1 year, he will be able to say, if at all I have to start a project in a waterfall SDLC delivery model, my requirements should be signed off by the client. Okay. Then what will be estimated there for a waterfall model? Okay. Based on the field required for that as well as the time duration to execute the project. So for all practical purposes, as we are aware, we can say that okay, waterfall model is plan driven. Okay, bit rigid in terms of all requirements are being requested from customer upfront. Many times customers may be having or may not be having. Okay. Now, see, think of the scenario where we need BPM. It is not that client is not at all having any sort of an automated application to execute their business processes somehow. Of course, they have a set of applications. They have many times siloed applications. They may not be integrated together, but still, okay, they will be able to execute their business processes. So, with such a customer who is somewhat placed to execute their day-to-day business activity, if we go and insist with them, you should provide all the requirements to me upfront, it may not be a viable option for even the customer, because we are talking about a transformation initiative. We are not talking about the means a higher plane. He definitely can ensure higher return of investment, okay, have better market visibility, have better market orientation. Then only they will go for such engagements. So, based on our experience, we suggest an agile mode of project implementation for BPM kind of activities. Again, in an agile mode, the fixed aspect will be the number of people required for the implementation as well as the time duration based on the client's requirement. Client comes and says that in order to showcase to my higher level management in terms of what is the value add a BPM engagement will give for your business transformation. We have this much limited budget. Will you be able to provide us a set of features which will clearly showcase a transformational value add to my organization? That will be the question client will be putting forward. And our answer should be yes, if at all we adopt something called a agile methodology. So agile is value driven. Okay, estimate what is being estimated here is features. What are the BPM features? Okay, a client want within a fixed period of time as well as with fixed amount of skill pool. Okay, based on their requirement in an iterative mode, okay, we should be able to do a BPM implementation. So based on our experience, agile mode of implementation should be ideal. Agile iterative mode will be ideal for the customers. Moving on to slide 8. Okay, so see, I have 10 more minutes for carrying on this particular discussion and subsequent queries. So I will rush through a bit in terms of the subsequent slides, but of course, the queries we can take offline plus the subsequent slot for the queries. Slide number 9, finer aspects I have talked through in the previous slide. So, what we are trying to do over here, the traditional software development lifecycle, SDLC, is being mentioned as on horizontal line up front in the top corner. Then subsequently, I have mentioned something called BPMLC, BPM lifecycle. Okay, so we are trying to map the traditional software development lifecycle with the BPM development lifecycle, which I have this. A typical software development lifecycle, the first step, let me call it as envisioning. It's nothing but requirement gathering. Requirement and functional requirement gathering phase and functional decomposition of requirements, envisioning phase. Then we will do analysis and design. Here I have mentioned it as a time-boxed development activity. Then of course release testing, various testings together. I am mentioning it as release testing. Then release and deploy. Then comes warranty and closure. It's a typical software development life cycle. I am comparing that with the BPM development life cycle. Typically the requirement gathering part we will call it as process discovery. Okay, there we will do all the steps by which we will gather the requirements. Then comes process modeling and simulation. The minute steps for your reference I have just classified over there, but I have already touched upon this. Right. Design, develop, process testing together will come into picture. If you can just compare these two steps together, in fact, it encompasses the two steps within a traditional software development life cycle: time-boxed development and release testing together. Then, of course, deploy and execute, monitor and analyze. These three steps we will do in place of a release and deploy alone. The activities which I have mentioned if you can just compare that with the previous, you will understand the finer points which I have made it over here for your reference. Then of course warranty and closure. Okay, so from the traditional development life cycle, only minor differences are there. Key USP of this particular methodology is the process modeling and simulation phase, as already I have communicated. Moving on to slide number 10. So here, what I am trying to convey is a pictorial depiction of a transformed enterprise, so to say. Okay, so before and after kind of a scenario in an organization where BPM adoption happened. The before kind of a process silos are there, which has been mentioned as domain 1, domain 2, domain 3, domain 4. You can see the business processes, underlying integration infrastructure, underlying application components, everyone is tightly coupled. I can say it's a tightly coupled enterprise in terms of integration infrastructure, business processes, underlying data, so on and so forth. After adopting a BPM through the various steps we have mentioned earlier, we are arriving at something called a process modernized enterprise. There, what is visible over here is the clear demarcation of business processes as a complete business process layer, okay, application layer, and data layer. Okay, so this is the kind of segregation of business processes a BPM transformation can bring into an organization context. Okay. So this slide, it sums up the kind of discussion points we have done earlier. I just want to give a visual depiction here. Moving on to slide number 11. Again, it's a BPM adopted enterprise. Okay. What we are trying to convey, I've just magnified, highlighted the layered structure which I've shown in the previous slide in terms of in a BPM implemented organization, how the n number of actors, okay, you can see the top corner, the horizontal line, who is n number of custom entities who are part of the BPM kind of a process collaboration, and the bottom horizontal line you can talk about how CRM, ERP, legacy applications, homegrown applications, so on and so forth, database, so on and so forth, through a BPM layer to achieve the organization's business transformation goal. Dwelling a bit deep into the middle structure, the layer-wise structure, the bottom line, infrastructure services, security services, monitoring services, so on and so forth, that segregates the basic hardware level, okay, access and infrastructure services. On top of that, the blue line as well, the next level of, okay, some sort of integration plus infrastructure oriented services together. The third layer, integration services, messaging, business rules, transformation, so on and so forth, which does segregate into some sort of integration middleware layer. Then comes the top two layers where all business process management kind of a, okay, reusable services together taken into consideration and implemented for future reuse as well as future BPM benefit. Okay, so this particular okay orientation we just highlighted, magnified, okay, the previous okay scenario of a layered BPM implementation. Moving on to the next slide, slide number 12. Here, purely showcasing for completion sake, a sample BPM solution architecture. It's a logical architecture where left side, okay, a set of users have been defined. All BPM tools will be having its own okay user interface to implement the interface kind of interactions. All business process management tools will be having its own workflow and rules management tools, whereby we will be able to implement the process orchestration plus segregate the business rules, and okay, it can get connected to a set of integration middleware. We call it as an enterprise service bus for this particular discussion sake, and it will get interacted with data stores within the organization. So you talk about a set of users to start with and end with a set of siloed data store. Here the data can be external to the organization, which is being connected by B2B gateways, internal to the organization, plus applications or metadata we are talking about. All these together will be interfaced with the customer, giving all segmented modeling tool, so on and so forth. Okay, it's a layered way of a BPM implementation. The example which I have showcased here is based on an IBM BPM tool. I know most of you are coming from varied BPM tool background. You can just relate this particular architecture with any of the BPM tool you are currently performing your process transformation kind of an activity together. So I have 2-3 minutes for getting into queries. Before that, okay, I will just take you people through the subsequent slide. Okay, I'm not going to discuss more on this particular thing. Considerations for BPM product selection. In fact, I had multiple questions also. I talked about around 70 BPM products patented and available in market for users to choose in terms of their BPM implementation. What actually the considerations or parameters by which a customer, how as an IT services provider, the software providers will be able to assist our customers in terms of choosing a particular BPM tool. Okay, so a few high-level parameters are design. Here we deal with how sophisticated the product's development environment for designing the processes. That can be a question. Automation. How extensive are the product features for automating business processes? Because here BPM is all about automating a set of siloed business processes. So automation is the key. Human workflow. How well does the product incorporate interactions of the people with the automated processes? An organization we talk about, a lot of business processes will not have to be executed by a lot of business roles, organizational roles, based on an organizational hierarchy in terms of roles and responsibilities. A BPM tool or a BPM implementation should provide selective role-based access to various business processes in a BPM landscape. Okay. Then monitoring and management. I have already mentioned the significance of monitoring key performance indicators throughout the business process implementation and how the optimization we touched upon. How sophisticated is the product's set of tools for analyzing process trends, computing, optimizing, as well as redeploying the processes. So analyzing as well as optimizing the process in each and every step, it comes as the basic expectation from any BPM tool in the industry as of date. Then the product architecture. Now, we are talking about an industry, even the technology maturity, even the industry standard in terms of interfacing with the external world, it's being changed day by day. Okay, so the product architecture, okay, it can be scalable, reliable, available, and ability to adhere to non-functional requirements, NFRs, all are key. So these set of parameters, okay, should come into picture in terms of selecting a BPM product on behalf of our customer or as a customer. Okay, their own business SMEs or technical SMEs will be able to do this particular evaluation and selection. My final slide. Yeah. So here, slide number 14. Okay, BPM tool landscape. Keep on mentioning about a 70+ set of tools. Just to give a visual depiction of available set of BPM tool landscape. Some of the leading tools. Okay, this source of this particular depiction is from Gartner, and a set of BPM tools. Okay, starting from Pega, IBM have various offerings. IBM BPM 7.5, WebSphere dynamic process. Okay, then TIBCO, Oracle. So just to give a visual depiction of the kind of choice customers are left with in the BPM tool scenario we are talking about. Moving on to the subsequent slide. So here, the criteria for BPM tool adoption. This slide I just incorporate for the technical evangelists like many of you. okay, if at all you intend to do a BPM tool evaluation and adoption, okay, some sort of granular parameters you should definitely look at. This is not exhaustive. Okay, if you ask me, there can be okay umpteen number of further criteria based on the customer requirement. Okay, but here broadly a set of functionality parameters, a set of scenarios in which the BPM tool okay is going to implement a set of processes plus industry criteria in terms of okay, many times talk about the products history plus the product vendors. So these are some of the parameters you should okay, definitely okay, look into before getting into a granular level okay, BPM tool evaluation as well as adoption for your clients. I can take specific questions on this criteria okay, if at all anything is there in the next 15 minutes. And moving on to my last slide. Here, I promised that I will give a high level okay, tool comparison based on our implementation experience. Okay, based on okay, my organization's BPM implementation expertise, and leaving this for your own inferences in terms of your product implementation experience as well as your organization's implementation experience. The kind of parameters which I talked about, much difference in terms of the products, the top 4 products available in market. IBM's multiple BPM offerings, Oracle's BPM offering, TIBCO's 2 BPM offerings, as well as Pega's industry-leading tool offerings. Okay, so this particular scenario, okay, we are leaving it as such because first of all, it's based on our implementation experience. The second one is it's based on only the given evaluation parameters we are talking about. If at all you have to get into a granular product evaluation, again, I myself have around 50 more criteria to talk about. Based on a customer landscape, based on customer's requirement, we have to do specific product evaluations. Okay, so here not much difference we are able to find between the top vendors. Okay, so with this, I would like to okay commence this query session. If at all you have any of the queries, then please shoot it to me.
I already shared with you.
Yeah. So I will read out some of the queries for your benefit, and then I will try to answer. Okay. One of the queries: when you had a core competency within the enterprise, does it mean process optimization is unique to a particular organization? It's a very good query. Again, repeating, he wanted to know when an organization, I'm taking it from the perspective of an enterprise who want to implement BPM. Okay, when the organization have core technology expertise, okay, then process optimization has to be treated okay separately or not, if I understood it right. See, as many of the aspects which I've tried to touch upon, process optimization is an aspect when organizations feel that their existing business processes are somewhat matured, or they already found ways and means, okay, technology ways and means many a time to automate all their business processes. But because of their organizational constraints, maybe budgetary, maybe technical constraints, okay, their processes, automated processes, were scattered across multiple applications. There comes the need for optimizing the process. Okay, so when integrating such applications together, okay, there can always be a possibility of okay doing the same set of processes in lesser number of steps. There comes the process optimization, which is a key. Okay, so one more point I want to drive home: this is not the job of a BPM technology practitioner alone. The best custodian of an organization's business process is their own business provider like ours, business analyst community, who will be knowing clients' business processes as a second best alternative to clients' SMEs. So it's a collective effort, I should say. Then another question: how is a process measured against KPIs? Is it through business business process intelligence tools. Okay, so a right question. Most of the BPM tools, okay, I will say more than 90% of the BPM tools available in the market, they will provide a runtime as well as in a batch mode facility to, okay, incorporate the number of KPIs which a business or process owner need to measure throughout the life cycle. So runtime also it can be measured, plus you can get a batch mode of a report. Okay, so all available in most of the BPM tools. Another query, you mean to say a client cannot bring in BPM unless he has completed the tools, namely EA and SOA. It's a very good question. That was not at all the case. Okay, the enterprise transformation journey by BPM, one of the slides which I have presented, we were trying to depict the kind of typical business process journey, this process integration journey organizations adopted over the past 15 to 20 years. Okay, the concept of a process modernized enterprise or process integrated enterprise came very late. I will say maybe minimum 8 to 10 years. It is younger than the concept wise. It is younger than the enterprise application integration concept. So my advice to them, straight away you can look at BPM. Then somehow getting those applications connected in a technology oriented way, then trying for a BPM, so on and so forth. So to be specific, okay, BPM need not necessarily have an EA or SOI, service-oriented model of an integration, as a precursor to that. You can straight away get into a BPM kind of an implementation and organization. Then another query, how much BPM applications are compatible with the third-party BREs, especially in case of migration? Okay, a good question. Many times, okay, you can very well add this also, compatibility with the third-party rules engine available in market, okay, as one of the evaluation criteria for your client's BPM, okay, evaluation requirement. See, my answer to this particular query is most of the, I will say more than 90% of the BPM tools available in market will have seamless connectivity and integration capabilities with industries leading at least 2 to 3, okay, BRMS tool sets like iLog from IBM or FireEye Blaze from another leading BRMS tool. Okay, so that will be an aspect. Another question was there, JBoss rules, a BRMS tool. Yeah, it's an open source based BRMS tool. The kind of support the organization can bring and all, the product vendor can bring is still a question. But of course, yeah, tools also is an open source BRMS tool. Another question, where do the balance scorecard tool fit into measure KPIs in a BPM world? Okay, it's a good question. Balance scorecard kind of a scenario is on KPIs for any organization context. Okay, while doing a BPM implementation itself, rather than adhering to the tried and tested, the basic default ways of KPI monitoring within the BPM tool landscape, of course, you as a BPM practitioner can suggest balance scorecard kind of a mode also getting incorporated, implemented within that BPM implementation, so it can act as another mode of monitoring KPIs. Okay. Another query was that interesting one. Do the processes standards like ISO, CMMI, Six Sigma correlate with this life cycle? How is the life cycle different from TOGA framework? I assume the query is related to BPM development life cycle. Okay. See, my straight answer to all these things is yes. These are all interrelated. Why? As simple as this. These are all trying to implement and optimize the process scenarios within an organization. You talk about Six Sigma, you talk about CMMI, of course its focus can be on varied set of processes. You talk about ISO, they are all trying to streamline a set of optimized processes within the organization. So answer to your query is, of course, it's interrelated. TOGAF framework, it's more of related to an enterprise architecture kind of a scenario. Of course, see, I've recently read an analyst report in Gartner, and where it has been specified that enterprise architecture, okay, BPM is the most important mode of visualizing an enterprise end-to-end architecture to attain business objectives or organization's business goals. That is what the assessment which have been given in the particular report. Enterprise architecture initiative important end-to-end process optimization scenario. Why we are talking about enterprise architecture? To achieve your business process optimization by automating your business applications. So you cannot segregate both of these together. Okay, both of these separately. Of course, with that perspective, TOGAF framework also is related to this particular thing. Another query: are these BPM workflows are standard and they can be migrated to any other BPM products? See, the standard BPM tool sets, at least the top 5 to 15 or 20 BPM tools available in market, 5 of them already are touched upon. They all store, most of them store their business process model in industry standards. Okay, either in business process execution language, BPL, or another notation is business process modeling notation, BPM. So a web-based process model which is being stored in the process repository of the BPM tool in an XML format, in most cases, can be straight away migrated, okay, to any other BPM tool. Okay, customization from tool to tool can be 10 to 15% of variation. Can be migrated to any BPM adhering BPM tool set as such. Another query: how WestSphere ESB, WestSphere Process Server, WestSphere Lombardi are placed in BPM? Okay, it's $1 million query. Even IBM Salesforce and BPM evangelists are day out, okay, trying to convince customers. Just to talk about IBM's BPM tool landscape as on date. Okay, as on date plus maybe we're taking it a bit backward, the last 4 to 5 years. We are talking about at least 3 specified BPM tool offerings in market as on date, which IBM is yet to announce end of life. Okay, that means it will be continued. Okay, for all customer implementation purposes plus support purposes. Okay, IBM, it's their flagship BPM product as of now is IBM BPM latest version 7.5. Just previously in the year 2010. IBM have purchased a third-party pure-play BPM tool, Lombardi, which itself came from an acquisition of an earlier tool set, Teamworks and Lombardi together. So IBM have rechristened the tool as IBM Lombardi Teamworks. So that is still there as another BPM offering. Before that, IBM's bread and butter BPM tool offering, IBM WestSphere Process Server. Okay, to be specific, in year 2004. WBISF 5.1, WestSphere Business Integration Server Foundation 5.1. It came into picture. It has a process choreographer component. All these together shipped from year 2005 onwards. WestSphere Process Server. Okay, WestSphere Process Server comes in multiple editions. WestSphere Process Server Dynamic Edition, so on. So that is also available in market. Then even before this, IBM have a document management. Document-centric BPM tool, FileNet, which is still in operation. So these 4 offerings, but going forward, IBM's flagship offering will be IBM BPM 7.5, Business Process Manager 7.5, which is a combination all the both the worlds, good worlds of WestSphere Process Server plus Lombardi. They have taken into consideration. Another query was: which enterprise adopt BPM as a solution in this challenging time? Which sector has more market share? Okay. See, the first query: how enterprises adopt BPM as a solution in this challenging time? I think this query came at the starting of this particular presentation. So I have answered this through various slides. answering your second part, which sector has more market share? BFSI, of course. Later analyst report you read BFSI, banking, finance, securities and insurance. They comprise roughly around 35 to 38% of all BPM implementation spend as well as market share. So safely we can assume. Okay. Then comes CPGs, retail. Okay. Then healthcare. Okay. In this order, we can count on this. Yeah. So just time check on the moderator.
Yeah, we can take a couple of questions and then we can conclude the session.
Yeah. Okay. So can we take one or two questions or?
Yeah, we can take one or two last questions.
Yeah. Okay. So with this, we are coming to the end of this particular session. Last questions. Okay. Yeah. So I think the moderator is allowing me to take one or two more queries. How is a process measured against KPIs? It is through business intelligence tools. I think I have taken this particular query. Okay. Can we implement existing BPMs integrate with the mobility solution? Both the ways are executable. See, one point I want to mention over here. Day by day, the definition of BPM it's being widened by the BPM service product service providers as such. Okay, gone are the days in which the BPM tools will only have process integration capability and real-time integration capability with the third-party tools. Nowadays, an end-to-end process visibility in terms of whatever the technical enablement a customer required to achieve his end-to-end business processes, most of the BPM vendors are trying to provide. Okay, so I will not be surprised in next few quarters. Okay, many of these top vendors will be coming up with some sort of interface for mobility solutions within a BPM landscape itself. Another query, should any business requirements for SOA migration effort be captured using TOGAF meta model? Okay, this is not at all related to the BPM. Okay, but my answer is yes, and maybe we can take it offline if you can discuss over a call or through email. Which is the best tool for telco and any tool that can provide support for rapid application development? Okay. So this is a query from Saurabh. Saurabh, I presume you are talking about OSS BSS integration and process optimization kind of a scenario. Okay, more than 40% of the OSS BSS integration landscape as such in terms of the spend and implementation size and market, we could easily see TIBCO-based integration and BPM toolsets are being used for OSS BSS implementation worldwide. IBM coming into a second one and Oracle a distant third. I think with this, any more queries you have, you are free to upload in the website. I'll be able to answer in the next 1 or 2 days as such. Okay. So thanks once again, thanking you all for logging in from a busy day, taking time off from your work timing, and thanks for the encouraging response in terms of shooting out so many queries. Okay, thanks for your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sujit, for the informative session on enterprise business transformation by BPM Technologies. It was indeed an enlightening session. I would also like to thank the participants for their support in making this webinar a huge success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. The next session in TechGig webinar is happening tomorrow at 3 p.m. Topic for the webinar is 10 mistakes of my career. Second session in Tech Leadership Series. We will be having Mr. Krishnan Natarajan, Vice President Product Marketing, ThoughtWorks Studios as a guest speaker. So see you all tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thank you.
Over and out.